Yes, I could film it like that. Maybe. Not this at all, but who knows.
Morning. So, so it's been a few days now. Oops. Been a few days since it's been revealed that the TGA or whoever have been lying to everyone that the children were killed in the trials. They've been covering up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. And now here we are. So we're at Dumbass House because these are the people that will eventually stop the shots. They should stop the shots today. The shots need to stop today now that it has come out that we've all been lied to. It has been killing children. The shots are killing children. They've admitted it last week. There should be massive press conferences today to say that they're stopping the shots immediately. Where are the press conferences to say they're stopping the shots immediately? It's come out last week that children were killed in the trials and they've been covering it up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. Well, we've got more than vaccine hesitancy now. We've got a whole lot of dead children, dead adults. So you better make sure that today there's a press conference to say you're stopping the shots. That'll be probably your last chance to stay out of prison, or you government employees who've been peddling these shots. Okay, so you want to make Mark McGowan stand up in front of a podium today and say he's stopping the shots immediately now that it's come out we've all been lied to. We've all been lied to with this medical fraud. There's been a number of children dead just in the trials alone, and as we know, the number of people died suddenly all around the world continues to climb. Today you need to organise a press conference for your fearless leader, the Führer, to stand up and say that we are stopping the shots immediately so that no one else is killed or injured. Now that the Australian government has come out and said they've been lying to you this whole time, they didn't want to create any vaccine hesitancy, which is why they didn't disclose that children were killed in the trials. Now that that's come out last week, this week today you must come out with a press conference. You must tell your fearless leader to come out with a press conference today and say that they're stopping the shots, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Now that it's come out that children were killed in the trials and that's been covered up by the TGA, by Professor Sterrett, it's all been covered up because they didn't want any vaccine hesitancy. No vaccine hesitancy, just a whole lot of dead kids, a whole lot of dead adolescents, particularly adolescents with the myocarditis. They've been dropping dead from that, particularly if they're a sports person. So last week, the Australian government has come out and admitted that they lied to everyone, that children were killed in the trials, but they didn't want to let that out of the bag because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. Well, that's out of the bag now, and you must make a press conference immediately with your fearless leader to come out and tell us that he's stopping the shots immediately. He's stopping the shots immediately so that no more children are killed. Your fearless leader, Mark McGowan, needs to have a press conference today. So you can probably organise that once you get up there to your desk to say that the shots are stopping today because we don't want any more children killed, like the children that were killed that have been covered up by the Australian government all this time because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. They admitted it last week that the children were killed, but they didn't want any vaccine hesitancy, so they lied to everyone to say it was safe and effective. And your Führer has been peddling this safe and effective, and of course he's the one. Your Führer is the one that mandated it. Most people come up to me and say, you know what, I only took it because I was going to lose my job, my livelihood, my house. Who was going to look after my kids? That's the only reason I took this mandated poison. And now that it has come out last week that the vaccine has been pushed under a web of lies. In fact, it's come out weeks ago that Pfizer said the whole thing, we didn't even test if it stopped transmission. The whole thing has been lies, and of course now you have the absolute unequivocal proof that your government has been lying to everybody, that they've been lying that there were no children killed in the trials. They've been lying because they didn't want anyone to have vaccine hesitancy. We don't have vaccine hesitancy, we've got a whole lot of dead children. You need to organise a press conference today in Dumbass House. All you dumbasses need to organise a press conference today with your fearless leader McGowan saying that he is going, hello sir, so that he is going to be stopping the shots immediately. Hello sir, my name is Stephen James Hayes, how are you? Thank you. You're very welcome. Now, you guys need to go to your desk right now, put your coffee down and start typing up that speech for your Führer to say we're stopping the shots immediately because the government's been lying to everyone and the children have been killed in the trials and we've all been lied to, and now we're stopping the shots today because we don't want any more children killed. That's what Mark McGowan needs to do today. So once you get up to your desk, I mean, you could all have a bit of a competition. You can all write the speech where Mark McGowan tells us all that he's stopping the shots today. He will be going to jail, but it doesn't have to be today. Today he just needs to stop the shots to make sure any more children aren't killed. Now when he goes to the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience, he will be there for his own protection because of all the children he has murdered with these mandates, all the parents he has murdered, okay, all the mothers and fathers he has murdered with these shots, because everyone's been lied to, and apparently the TGA, the Australian government's been lying to everyone about who died in the trials because no children died. It's all safe and effective. Well, it came out last week the children did die. But they weren't telling anyone adolescents were dead. Of course they weren't telling anyone because they don't want vaccine hesitancy to creep into the community, do they? Don't want anyone to be vaccine hesitant after you find out that it kills you. We don't want any vaccine hesitancy in the community, so we are going to lie to the Australian people. Well, the liar is out of the bag now, so you can get your Führer to stand up today. Sorry, darling, I'll hop out of the way. Once you get up to work, you can maybe start typing up his speech, Mark McGowan's speech, to tell everyone the shots are stopping today. Now that we found out last week that the government's been lying to us about the children who died in the trials. Children definitely did die, and they've been saying they didn't, and they've been saying that it's safe and effective, and it's completely not safe, and it's definitely not effective. So you need to hear this speech now. Yep, you can probably put that through some sort of Excel sort, and come up with a speech which blurts out, stop the shots. That's all he has to say, based on what we know now, based on the science, based on the tests that the TGA's been covering up. He needs to stop the shots today. Not tomorrow, not at lunchtime. This morning he needs to come out in front of a podium and say we're stopping the shots because we don't want any more children killed with these poisonous vaccines that are not safe and they're certainly not effective. Certainly not effective. They don't stop you getting the virus and they don't stop you transmitting the virus. All they do is create a whole lot of adverse events. People having strokes, heart attacks, blood clots. They're dropping dead like they're being unplugged. Okay, they've vaccinated all the pilots. Now pilots are grounding themselves. Unheard of pilots grounding themselves. They always find a way to stay in the air. But they know they're not right. Now after the Australian government has admitted last week that the children did die in the trials and they've been covering that up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy, when you get up to your desk, start typing Mark McGowan's speech to say that he's stopping the shots today. Based on what we know now, based on the lies that have been uncovered last week, Mark McGowan is stopping the shots today. Okay, not tomorrow, not tonight, not when he gets around with it. He can just come out right now and say stop the shots. In certain places in the world, they've made it now a felony to give the shots. They're banning it in all sorts of places in the world, and we're still promoting it. We're still promoting it. Well, not after today, we're not. Because your Führer's going to stand up in front of a podium today, and he's going to say we're stopping the shots because we don't want any more children to be killed by these poisonous injections. We're stopping the shots today because it turns out the TGA and Professor Skerritt, that evil, evil man who wants to try and talk his way out of it, have been lying to us this whole time. And in fact, the shots do kill you, and they did kill children and adolescents in the trials, and they've been covering that up because they didn't want to have any vaccine hesitancy in the community. So they would rather have vaccine hesitancy and dead children. Okay? No vaccine hesitancy, but plenty of dead children. So you need to get in there and talk to your minders and say, we need the Führer to step in front of a podium today and say we are stopping the shots. That's right, we are stopping the shots because we found out last week that we've been lied to and that children did die in the trials. That's why we're stopping the shots today. That's why Mark McGowan will be out in front of a podium today telling everyone that we're stopping the shots, because Mark McGowan, now that he's got that information on board, Mark McGowan must now stop those shots now that he knows that the TGA have been covering up the deaths of children after being injected, covering up the deaths of adolescents after they've been injected. The only thing for the mandating Führer, the fascist dictator Mark McGowan, to do today is to stand in front of a podium and to say we're stopping the shots because we don't want to murder any more children. We don't want to murder any more adolescents, because we know the TGA have covered this all up because it all came out last week. They have been hiding the deaths in the trials because they didn't want any vaccine hesitancy. We don't have vaccine hesitancy. You've got a whole lot of dead children and adolescents, particularly sports people. They're all dropping dead, right? And now that we found out that our own government has been lying to us, our own therapeutic administration has been falsifying the records and saying it's safe and effective and saying that no children have died, we know that's a lie now. We absolutely know that's a lie now. So your Führer will be waiting with bated breath for you to get up to your workstation and start typing out a little memo just to say this is what Mark needs to say in front of the podium. And look, it's not even a paragraph. If Mark wants me to stand for him, I'll definitely say that. I'll definitely get in front of a podium if Mark's too embarrassed or he thinks he's going to be assassinated at the podium. If Mark's too embarrassed to go in public without his armed guards. If Mark doesn't want to be booed and hissed at and have stuff thrown at him, I'll go out in front of a podium and I'll pass on what Mark's doing. He's stopping the shots, because the shots need to stop today, no matter what you think, no matter what this government thinks, no matter the politics that they've been playing through this whole thing of smashing anyone with a view that differs from the government. That's all over now, because it's all a web of lies. It's been lies from Pfizer from the beginning. It's been lies from your Führer for at least the start of 2021, because they knew at the start of 2021 that it caused heart issues. They knew at the start of 2021 that it caused heart issues. How did they know? Because I know. Because I had the A-frame out here, remember? It said myocarditis. It was from the Australian federal government. It was from 2021. 2021 they've known that all these shots give you myocarditis, and now they know that the Australian government has been lying to everyone and children were murdered, and now they need to stop the shots. They need to stop the shots today, not tomorrow, not tonight. Mark McGowan won't be able to weasel out of this one. He's going to jail, Mark McGowan, because he's going to need to go to jail for his own protection. He's going to need to go to jail for his own protection. In fact, I'm an advocate of putting all the senior leadership group into the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience for their own protection, because now that it's out that everyone's been lied to, everyone has been lied to, and that the shots do kill children, and that the shots are not safe and effective, Mark McGowan needs to come out today and at least stop the shots. He doesn't need to do anything else today, only stop the shots, because it's too dangerous to be giving this poison to anyone else, particularly children, because you've come out with a new bivalent booster as well today. And Mark McGowan needs to stop those shots going into anyone, because it is poisonous. Because last week the TJ have come out and said that they've lied to everyone, and adolescents and children were killed in the trials, and that they didn't want to publish that because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. So they have misled the entire country about who died and who didn't, because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. So the Premier, if you can call him that, I call him the Führer. The Führer must come out today and say he's stopping the shots today. He is stopping the shots today because it's too dangerous. Okay? The risk-benefit profile has changed. In language you can understand. The risk-benefit profile has changed. We now know that they've been lying and that children have been dying. And they've covered it up, and now they need to stop the shots today. So you need to be up there at your workstations writing Mark McGowan's speech to say how he intends to tell everyone today that the shots are stopping. Now, he doesn't have to go out in public. He doesn't have to have a whole SWAT team around him. He can be inside Dumbass House and give this information out to the television, can't he? He can have a press conference behind a podium inside Dumbass House where he tells everyone in the state they must stop giving these shots immediately because the TGA has lied to everyone. Mark McGowan knows that he's been causing heart attacks since 2021. He's known this from 2021, but now he knows that the TGA has been lying about the deaths of children and adolescents. They've been lying because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. Well, they don't have vaccine hesitancy. They've got a whole lot of dead people. A whole lot of dead people who I'm sure wish they had been a bit more vaccine hesitant. I'm sure all those dead people are looking behind their shoulder going, you know what? Next time I come back, I might be a bit more vaccine hesitant. Anyway, I digress. I'm getting into fantasy now. Let's get back to facts. The fact is that last week, the TGA, the Australian government, came out and said they had lied to the Australian people because they didn't want to cause any vaccine hesitancy. What did they lie about? They lied about the deaths of children. The deaths of children because they didn't want any parents to not take their children to possibly die from the injection. They wanted to make sure as many parents as possible went and injected their children with this poison and possibly died. So now that Mark McGowan has this information on board, he must now stand at a podium today and say he's stopping the shots. Mark McGowan is stopping the shots today, not next week. Today the shots must stop because we are not going to have any more people murdered by this poisonous injection which Pfizer have been lying about. It's not safe, it's not effective, it does nothing but cause adverse events, horrific adverse events, absolutely horrific adverse events. That's what the shots do. But now we have the Australian government admitting they lied about children dying in the trials because they wanted to deceive everyone. They wanted to deceive everyone to take their children and get them injected with the poison. So now that Mark McGowan knows about the deception today, it's not good enough that he knew it was going to give you a heart attack in 2021. He knew it was going to give you a heart attack in 2021, but now he knows it kills children. He must stop the shots today. He must have a press conference today. Today, he must get behind a podium, behind all of his bulletproof, flak-vested TRGs that have to protect him day in, day out now. He can get behind them and he can admit that the shots are killing children and they need to stop today. The shots are killing children and they need to stop today. The evidence came out last week from the Australian government. They've been lying to everyone, lying about the deaths of children and adolescents. They've known about it all along. They're just the trial group. Imagine extrapolating that to the rest of the community, the amount of deaths and injuries. Well, that's what we've been seeing, and it's been completely ignored by your dumbass Führer. Well, you can't ignore it anymore. The TGA have come out and said it's killed children, but we didn't tell anyone. We've lied to everyone. We've lied to everyone because we wanted them to also inject their children and kill them. So now that Mark McGowan knows about the deception and lies, he must stop the shots today. Mark McGowan already knows that the shots do nothing. He knows that the shots do nothing. It doesn't stop infection or transmission. He already knows that. He's known since the beginning of 2021 that the shots give you heart conditions. He's known that since 2021. But now he knows that the shots are definitely not safe and effective. Definitely not safe and effective. They're killing children. Killing children, and the deaths have been covered up. But now the deaths have been uncovered. So Mark McGowan needs to stand in front of a podium today and tell everyone how the shots are stopping today. The shots will be stopping today. Not next week. Not next week. not after they've had another cabinet meeting. He knows that he is complicit in the deaths of these children in WA, in the myocarditis injuries, and that's just the start. That's just the start, the myocarditis. All sorts of autoimmune injuries, the blood clotting, all sorts of injuries. They know about this, and now the Australian government has admitted it, that it's killing children. They can no longer pretend not to know. They must stop the shots today. Mark McGowan must go in front of a podium today, and that's why I'm asking everyone at your desk today, trust me, there is nothing more important in the pipeline than Mark McGowan standing in front of a podium today and telling everyone that he's stopping the shots because the risk-benefit profile has certainly changed. The risk-benefit profile from nothing's wrong to it's causing all sorts of horrendous injuries, and it's now come out they've been covering up the deaths of children to stop vaccine hesitancy, covering up the deaths of children, lying, saying it's safe and effective to get more parents to turn up and inject their children with poison. Mark McGowan must stand at a podium today and tell everyone that he is stopping the shots today. So when you get up to your workstation, you can help by starting to type that out for him, and he can maybe pick the best one. He can pick the best one by morning tea, can't he? Because Mark McGowan needs to come out in front of the public today and tell everyone that he's stopping the shots. The shots cannot continue today. The shots cannot continue. They must be stopped today. Mark McGowan must reach out to everyone who still listens to that fascist moron, to all the medicos who've got extra yachts from all these injection payments. He needs to reach out to all those medicos and say, no more shots, ladies and gentlemen. You've got enough yachts, no more shots. He needs to come out today and say, no more shots. We've been lied to. Children have died. The Australian government admitted it last week. They admitted it last week that they've been lying to everyone and children died. And now Mark McGowan must stand in front of a press conference today and tell everyone the shots have been suspended in Western Australia. The risk-benefit profile is no longer what it was. The risk-benefit profile is now, it's possibly going to kill your children, and it's not going to kill them. The COVID, you don't shake your head. When you get back to wherever you're going, sit down for your coffee, start typing out that paragraph for Mark to say the shots are stopping today. After last week, the government came out and admitted that they've covered up the deaths of children to stop vaccine hesitancy. You won't be able to wrangle out of this one in your pink suits. So why don't you start helping him and start writing your paragraph when you get to coffee, right? You won't be able to wriggle out of this one, you politicians and you greasy politician lackeys. You're not going to be able to wriggle out of this one. We've known for years it's been killing children, and you've just scoffed at us. You've scoffed at us and done nothing, absolutely nothing, to stop children being killed. Absolutely nothing. And now you must do something because the Australian government has come out last week and said they lied to everyone. It's not safe and effective. It's killed children and adolescents and other people in the trials. And if you extrapolate that out to the rest of the community, that's a lot of people. Now, we've known for a while that birth rates in Western Australia have plummeted. Birth rates have plummeted. Absolutely dropped off the scale. Birth rates. But let's not do anything about that, because we're too far into this now to turn back now. That's what you people think, isn't it? You're too far down the slippery slope that you can't possibly turn back now. Well, I'm telling you, Mark McGowan will be turning back today. He'll be turning off the shots today. Mark McGowan will be answering a press conference today where he will be announcing the shots must stop today because the vaccine is poison, killing children. The killing of children has been covered up by the Australian government because they didn't want any vaccine hesitancy. Covered up by the Australian government because they wanted you to take your child along and give them myocarditis and have them die in their sleep, your children. That's what they wanted. That's why they covered up the deaths in the trial. That's why they've been saying it's safe and effective. Safe and effective, they've been saying. Now it's come out the Australian government has admitted they've been lying. The TGA's admitted they've been lying. Professor Skerritt tries to play down that they've been lying, doesn't he? Oh, it doesn't. Myocarditis doesn't necessarily cause heart attacks. According to our scientist, Professor Skerritt, when you get in there, start writing a paragraph for Mark. He's going to need a paragraph today to say the shots are stopping. Okay? The government has admitted that they've been killing children, they've covered it up to stop vaccine hesitancy. He needs to stop the shots today. Not next week, today. Mark McGowan must stop the shots today and make it a press conference so that everyone knows that they are not to give any more of these poisonous injections to anyone and kill anyone else, like what's been covered up by the Australian government. Now, Mark McGowan knows that these deaths have been covered up now. He can't look you straight in the face now and say no children have died because it's been admitted by the Australian government. So he needs to come out today at a podium and tell everyone that the vaccines are stopping today. The risk-benefit profile has changed for the vaccines and they are stopping today. And you must get that point across to Mark McGowan today. If there is one thing on your to-do list today, that is it. Because it's been admitted now that children have died in these trials. And it's all been covered up. And Mark McGowan has smiled at you and said it's safe and effective and called people like me that questioned it all sorts of horrible names. I don't care what he calls me, but he will be stopping the shots today. So ladies, when you get up to your workstation, start writing that speech for Mark McGowan where he's saying the shots must stop today. It's not a very long speech actually, it's probably one sentence, but he can round it out to a paragraph if he wants to explain anything else. I would just come out and say we're stopping the shots today. The risk-benefit profile has changed. That is it. Walk off. Do a Joe Biden. Not answer any questions, but he needs to come out and make the announcement today so that no more Western Australian children are killed. So that no more Western Australian adolescent sports people end up with myocarditis. That's what needs to happen today. Now, from the press I've seen lately, I would hazard a guess that the Führer is probably overseas somewhere, isn't he? Having a bread and breakfast in New Zealand, or maybe he's in the UK, your Führer. Do you know where Mark McGowan is, ladies? Do you know where the Führer is? Is he safe? He needs to be in the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience to be safe. All of the senior leadership group need to be put into the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience now for their own safety. Because it's come out now that we've all been lied to. We've all been lied to. Professor Skerritt knew he was lying. And of course, he's never been involved with Mark McGowan. Professor Skerritt's never had a conversation with Mark McGowan ever. So I'm sure Mark McGowan didn't know. He would have been known about the myocarditis. I'm sure he didn't know about the children dying that were covered up. But he knows now. Mark McGowan now knows. that children were killed in the vaccine trials and covered up. He must, wherever he is in the world, front a press conference and tell everybody that in Western Australia, the shots must stop. The shots must stop today. I don't know if this is even recording. Oh, yep. Looks like there was a few people here. Phone's gone kaplop. There we go. Yeah. There we go. They don't like you recording the government. They don't like you recording them. That's why they've put cameras every 3 inches to record everyone else. In court, when I'm in court, they're recording everything out of me. Recorders everywhere. They reckon I can't record in court. That's right, the special powers. Maybe Mark McGowan's got special powers. Because he mandated people inject themselves to keep a roof over their heads. He has injured and murdered thousands of Western Australians. And he would have you believe he knew nothing about it. This Western Australian government must resign immediately. But I digress, I'm getting ahead of myself. Today, after finding out last week that we've all been lied to about the children dying in the trials, he must halt the shots immediately. The shots must be halted immediately. Stop the shots today so that no more Western Australian children are killed. Mark McGowan must stop the shots today. You all know now, inside a dumbass house, you all know that children have died from the injections, and you have been busily working away to make sure that the injections continue, and you must stop the shots. You must stop the shots today. You must do whatever it takes to make sure no other children are given a death sentence from today onwards from these poisonous vaccines. You must override your superiors and what they have been telling you to do. You must override your superiors and do the right thing and stop the shots. Put out a bulletin now to all your doctor mates. Rolling in it from the vaccines. Stop the shots. Second paragraph. Get your affairs in order. For all the doctors that have been complicit in the injection of this poison, they need to get their affairs in order. Just like all the senior politicians and the senior police, they need to get their affairs in order. But that's all for another day. For today, Mark McGowan needs to front a press conference and declare that the shots are being stopped in Western Australia today. Why? Because the risk-benefit profile has changed. The risk-benefit profile has changed for the vaccines. There never was a risk-benefit profile if you go back far enough. But since last week, now that everybody knows children died in the trial, it's all been covered up, and we've been told it's safe and effective, and go and get injected, and inject your children, and inject your babies. And now there's a new bivalent booster. We all need to go injected with the bivalent booster now, that's coming out today. That needs to stop. No more injection of the poison. Now that we know that children are dead, there is no more covering it up. The Australian government admitted it last week. Children are dead, and they've covered it up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. Children are dead, and more children are dead because they've covered it up. You must front a press conference today, West Australian government, whoever it is, which one of your inept ministers it is, it doesn't matter, front a press conference and tell us that we are stopping the shots today. Because the risk-benefit profile has changed. Because we now know that it's killing children. The government has now admitted that it's killing children. So there's no more pretending it's safe and effective anymore. No more pretending. The time for pretend is over. And your senior leadership group needs to be locked up in the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience for their own safety. For their own safety, you need to lock these people up. Don't know what sort of delusional world where you can poison everyone's children and think you're just going to go overseas and get more people, get more children, are you? Going to go get more children? Because it came out last week. It came out last week that the Australian government has been lying to everyone. There were children killed in the trials, but they've covered it all up because they wanted more children to die, apparently. They've covered it all up because they wanted you to take your child off and get them injected, have them die in their sleep, have them myocarditis, have them blood clots. Well, there's no more hiding behind safe and effective, Mark. No more hiding. There's no more hiding behind safe and effective, Mark. Wherever you are in the world trying to buy more children for your utopia, you're buying more children. Overseas buying more children, apparently. Mark McGowan, he needs to come out today and say the shots are stopping today. Because we know today that after last week the TGA have come out and said that they covered up the deaths of children in the trials because they didn't want to have vaccine hesitancy. So we don't have vaccine hesitancy, thank God. We've only got a whole lot of dead people because of the TGA's lies, the Australian government's lies. But let's not go federal, let's keep it here in state. Mark McGowan knew at the beginning of 2021 that it gave you myocarditis and all sorts of other horrible conditions. But he could get away with lying and saying it's safe and effective because the Australian government was lying to him. I guess he'll pass the buck. Well, he can pass the buck all he likes. But today, Mark McGowan needs to come out and say the shots are stopping today because the risk-benefit profile has changed. We found out last week that the TGA has lied to everyone, that children were killed in the trials and was covered up for vaccine hesitancy reasons, apparently. So we don't have vaccine hesitancy, we've got a whole lot of dead children. So Mark McGowan needs to get to a podium today and tell everybody that the shots are stopping. All his fancy mates in the medical profession who've been making a mozza off the shots, killing children, giving people myocarditis, pericarditis, all sorts of horrible things. Mark McGowan needs to come out today and say the shots stop today. The risk-benefit profile has changed. We found out from the TGA they were lying. And children were killed in the trials, which they've been covering up. I've been called all sorts of names and sent to prison because I was saying children have been dying from these injections. Well, I'm not in prison now, but there are some people who are going to prison. And if I were you, I'd pop your Fuhrer and all his cronies, the senior leadership group of the West Australian government and the police, and senior doctors and lawyers, and the magistrates. They need to go into the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience for their own protection. because many people have had their children injured or lost their children. Many people have lost their parents, their houses, their livelihoods. They're injured so they can't work now. They got the shot so they can keep working under threats, under coercion. This has all been unlawful the whole time. Well, now the Australian government have come out and said they've been lying. So you've got your excuse now, West Australian government. You can stand up in front of a podium and say the risk-benefit analysis has now changed. And we are stopping the shots today. Not tomorrow, not next week. We know today that the risk-benefit analysis has changed, the risk-benefit profile has changed. We know now that they've been lying and children were killed in the trials. And they've covered it up so that more trusting parents took their children and got them injected with the poison. So Mark McGowan needs to front a podium, or anyone of your fascist ministers needs to front a podium today and say there are no more injections today. We're stopping the injections today because it's killed and injured too many people. Because the TGA have come out and said they've lied. They've lied about the children's deaths in the trials. They've lied about the deaths, and we've passed that lie off to you. So you've got your children injured. You've injured yourself. You only injured yourself so you can keep working to keep over your roof over your head and your children. Well, now they know that's all lies. So Mark McGowan, you need to front a podium today. And you need to tell everyone that the shots are stopping today. You need to put a bulletin out. Get your health department, put a bulletin out to all the physicians, so-called physicians, and tell them that the shots are stopping today because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. Because we now know that we've been lied to about children dying in the trials, and if we extrapolate that to the rest of the community, that's many, many children. Many children. Many people injured. Horrible autoimmune diseases. Blood clots. So you can take down don't worry about taking all the posters down today. Just front a press conference and send an all-port bulletin to those who should first do no harm, and they'll know who that is. Those who should first do no harm by maybe reading the trial data, which I know a lot of these so-called physicians still haven't done. Amazingly, still haven't read the trial data. There's so many trials, so much data. You'd have to be doing a whole lot of acrobatics now to pretend you didn't know that the shots were doing harm. A whole lot of acrobatics. Particularly after last week, where the Australian TGA has admitted, they've admitted that it's been killing children in the trials, and they covered it up. They've covered up the deaths of children in the trials, and adolescents, and people into their 40s. They all died in the trials. Safe and effective, it's not. Mark McGowan. Yeah, Jody Harms, you need to get on the phone to Mark, Jody, and tell him he needs to front a press conference today, Jody, and say the shots are stopping today, Jody. Today, Jody, the shots are stopping today. Get on the phone to your mate Mark and say the jig's up, Mark. You can't pretend you don't know about any injuries anymore, Mark. You can't pretend you haven't known about myocarditis since 2021. Mark McGowan has known about all these horrible autoimmune stuff since 2021 when the Pfizer trial data came out. He's known about it. Totally has known about it. So the shots need to stop today. Anyone in Dumbass House, you need to disobey your superiors, whoever they are, who've been telling you to go along with this poisoning of the Western Australian people. You need to disobey them and write a paragraph for Mark McGowan to read out in front of a podium explaining to the medical fraternity how the shots are going to stop today. Why? Because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. We now know, a lot of us have known through the trial data and through anecdotal evidence and through witness testimony that children, adults, a lot of people have been dying. A lot. Aboriginal community here in Western Australia, First Nations people, lots of funerals. Lots of funerals in the First Nations people. Many, many funerals in the First Nations people from this injection. And Mark McGowan can pretend that he didn't know what was happening. Well, he can't pretend anymore because the Australian government have admitted it last week. They've admitted it killed children in the trials, but they've lied and they've covered it up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. They didn't want vaccine hesitancy. So they lied. So Mark McGowan knows this now, and he must come out today and say that the shots are stopping today. The shots must be stopping today, Mark McGowan. He's probably asleep somewhere in the UK right now, resting his sweet little head as he thinks about replacing all the people who used to be nurses, all the people who used to be police officers, all the people who used to work in mining that he's poisoned, that he's now going overseas to poach from the UK, from Ireland, from New Zealand. Well, there's a whole lot of children dead as well now that you can't avoid, Mark. So I suppose you'll be trying to get some children from overseas too. I know you'll be definitely probably looking for lots of babies because birth rates are way down since the injections. A lot of pregnant mothers had to be injected just so they could get into hospital for treatment during their pregnancy. Oh, doctor knows best. Probably a doctor who hasn't even read the trial data. Doctor knows best. Well, what we have now is the Australian government admitting they have lied to the Australian people. They lied about the deaths of children in the trials, and there is no getting away from it. There's no getting away from it. And then you, Mark McGowan, passed on that lie to trusting adults who've got children who injected them, and some of those children are dead. Many of them are injured. Many of them are injured, and some of them are dead. So you need to come out today with a press conference, Mark McGowan. Wherever you wake up in the world, you need to come out with a press conference today and tell all your mates that have got extra boats now in the medical fraternity that they need to probably hide the boats, hide them, and stop doing the injections. From today, there are no more injections of the poison. No more. The risk-benefit analysis has changed, Western Australian government, and you must change today. You must send out a bulletin today to say that the West Australian government is stopping all injections because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. The risk-benefit profile has changed. Now that we know that we've been lied to about the deaths of the Australian children in the trials. It's not safe and effective. It's all lies. And you need to stop the injections today. One of your creepy mismanagement ministers, one of your moronic older following ministers, your sellout ministers of the fascist Western Australian government needs to make a presentation today to the media and put out a bulletin via the health department today to all the physicians today. Today, the injections must stop. The injections must stop today. No more injections in Western Australia of the poison from today. This must happen today. Not next week. cabinet meeting, not let's wake Mark up in the UK, or he's had a few, or I don't know. The Western Australian government needs to stop these poisonous injections today. Now that it's come out that the TGI has lied to us, that Australian children were killed in the trials. Australian children. And we've been lied to. And you can't hide from it any longer. You need to come out and stop the injections today. An all points bulletin must go out today to all doctors, nurses, anyone in the medical fraternity. You are not to inject any more civilians with this horrible poison. Because we know the truth now. We've been trying to get for the truth for years. Me personally, and people I know personally, absolutely smashed by your fascist government. Well, we're still here. And you are going to stop the shots today, Western Australian government. You're going to come out today and say we know that it's killing children. Not that they didn't already know that, but now they can't hide from it anymore. They cannot hide from the fact anymore that the shots are killing Australian children and they must be stopped immediately. The shots must not go on. The shots must stop immediately. Somebody from the Western Australian government who thought they were going to have a nice chat around the water cooler this morning. Or maybe they were there with their mocha latte this morning. Thought it was going to be a cruisy Monday. Let's have our stand-up meeting, work out what we're going to do. I've done all that work for you people. Just go to the top of the sprint and write in, stop the shots. That's all you've got for this week's sprint. This week's sprint is stopping the shots. And they're stopping today. They're stopping today because we now know that we've been lied to. That children have been killed in these vaccine trials in Australia. And they've covered it all up.
We told him.
Thank you. Write him an email too.
Yeah, okay.
They've covered the deaths of Australian children up and lied about it. And people, good people, have gone along trusting you, trusting the Western Australian government with their children's lives, and a lot of them have got poisoned, injured and dead children. And you've been calling me a crackpot for years. Well, you can't hide from it anymore, can you? You need to stop the shots today. You need to write a press release, write a health bulletin today and say shots are off the menu. I don't care how many bivalent boosters you've purchased. I don't care how much rollout was going to happen with the bivalent booster today. You need to stop the shots today. Now that we know it was all lies, we know that the Pfizer vaccine was lies, and we know that they've lied to us about children in Australia dying from the trials. They've lied to us about children being killed in the trials in Australia because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. So when you do that, you don't end up with vaccine hesitancy, you end up with a whole lot of sick and dead children. And a whole lot of sick and dead adults, adolescents, sports people, First Nations people. So many funerals in the First Nations at the moment. Horrible the end of last year, so many funerals, and it started just as bad this year. Of course, you paid First Nations people, didn't you? You paid the blackfellas $500 as an incentive because they're shifty. They're dodgy if you, they think you're shifty, I should say. They're not shifty. The only people with any actual authority around here. Your authority's all made up. And they've been screwed over. First Nations people, black fellas here have been screwed over by the West Australian government so many times you had to bribe them with $500 to get the injection. You bribed them, knowing it could cause myocarditis, knowing all the autoimmune diseases. And since last week you now know that it's killed children in the trial. You now know that because the Australian TGA has admitted it. They've admitted it's killed children in the trial. Then why have they covered it up? You now know that. So you can put out a press release today saying stop the shots. No matter what's in this week's sprint, you need to put it to the top, stop the shots. You're having a stand-up meeting right now. There's only one thing you all need to work on, stopping the shots. It would only take one team. Somebody writes Mark's speech, another one writes a bulletin, another one contacts their doctor and says, I know your land again, okay? I know your land again, doctors, because apparently the shots have been killing children, right? It's not a good look. Not a good look if you're a doctor and you haven't even vetted trial data and you're injecting children with poison and they're dying and you've got a Lamborghini, put them back in the garage. That'll be the third thing. I'll worry about that later. Today, it's just stop the shots. Today, it's just a press conference from one of your inept ministers who definitely won't have read the trial data for them to stand at a podium and say, the vaccine risk-benefit analysis, risk-benefit profile has changed. The vaccine risk-benefit profile has changed. And we now need to stop injecting people because it turns out it actually was killing children. Just in the trial. Just in the trial. So it's definitely killed a whole lot of children out in the population. Definitely killed a whole lot of children. So with that in mind, don't worry about whatever press release or whatever email footy you were working on. Get up there after your first cup of coffee and start writing Mark McGowan's speech. It only needs to be 1 or 2 paragraphs. First paragraph. We are stopping the injection of COVID-19 vaccinations. Full stop. Second paragraph. Why are we doing this? Why are we stopping the injection of COVID-19 vaccinations? Because the risk-benefit analysis has changed and we have new information from the Australian government last week that they've been lying to everyone about the deaths of Australian children in the vaccine trials. That's why we're stopping it today. I've done all the work for you, just type it out, send it to whoever, but it needs to happen today. The shots need to stop today. Because we know today that it's all been lies. We know today that the Australian government has been lying about the vaccine trials. We know that today for sure. More importantly, I've known this for a long time. More importantly, the senior leadership group of the West Australian government, all Mark McGowan's cronies, Sue Ellery, Roger Cook, Chris Dawson, the criminal Chris Dawson. Who else? Oh yeah, John Quigley. Right? Mr. Alzheimer's, who decides things apparently. They all need to be put into the Bullsbrook Centre for Australian Resilience for their own protection. For their own protection. But any one of those inept public servants needs to front a press conference today and tell everyone that the shots stop today. Because we found out last week that the Australian government has been lying to everyone. The TGA has lied about children dying in vaccine trials. There is no more smiling and pretending you don't know, going to work, and thinking what a kook that Stephen James Hayes is out the front. Thinking what a kook he is. I want me to get a photo of him, right? No, today you need to admit that the children died as the government did last week, that you know that now, and you're stopping the shots. The West Australian government must stop the shots today because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. The risk-benefit analysis has changed because we now know that the Australian government has been lying about children dying in the trial. Safe and effective, they said. No children died, they said. All lies. The West Australian government must now stop the shots of the poisonous injection or risk killing one more child. Stop the shots today or risk killing one more baby. 5 variant boosters apparently now. 5 variant boosters are rolling out. You need to stop the shots and you need to wake up to yourselves and front up and realise there is no hiding from this. People with dead children have nowhere to hide. People with injured children have nowhere to hide. And the West Australian government has nowhere to hide. You must stop the shots today or risk injuring or killing one more West Australian, whether they be babies, children, teenagers, adolescents, people in their prime, dying suddenly, dying of heart attacks, strokes, blood clots. The West Australian government needs to come out today and tell everyone they are stopping the shots today. Not next week. I don't know, I'm still doing live stream. I imagine YouTube would have cut me off by now. Because, let's have a look. There we go. Oh, wow, it seems to be still going. Well, YouTube, I don't know how it's still going. It should have been cut off by now because I've been telling the truth. I've been telling the truth. So last time I did that, they cut the stream. So I don't know if you can hear anything, I don't know if you can see anything. Sorry, I just needed something for my own protection because, pretty much everyone in this building must go to sleep at night wondering what they ever did to deserve ending up in a place like this. Right? Where you can be convinced by your Führer that all these vaccine deaths and injuries aren't real. And then today after we know from last week, gents, we know from last week that we've been lied to, that children did die in the Australian trials. So the West Australian government must be stopping the injections today. Do you know anyone in the medical fraternity? You need to tell them to stop doing the injections because they're going to lose everything in the medical fraternity. They need to get their affairs in order, the medicos. All the doctors who've been injecting this poison, all the police who've been threatening civilians and bashing them and locking them up and assaulting them, putting them in jail. All the lawyers and the judiciary involved in the putting down of Australian civilians who ask questions, you're all going to jail. You're all going to jail, senior leadership group. But it'll certainly help you in your sentencing if you've come out today and stop the shots. You need to stop the shots today, because we now know it's all lies. We've known for a long time that it's caused horrendous injuries. We've known for quite a while that it doesn't stop infection. We've known for a while that it doesn't stop transmission. In fact, Pfizer never even tested for transmission. And now we know that it does kill children in Australia because they died in the trials and it's been covered up. And if you extrapolate that to the rest of the community, that's a whole lot of dead children. So the shots must stop today. Not next week. Not when you get around to it. Not when Mark's awake, as he's overseas trying to steal people from other countries to replace everyone he's poisoned in this state. Mark McGowan's gallivanting around everywhere, trying to find new nurses to replace the ones he's poisoned, trying to find new police to replace the ones he's poisoned, to find new mine workers to replace the ones he's poisoned, the ones that know they're not the same since they took it. He's probably over there trying to find children and babies because they've also been injured and murdered from the lies, from trusting people who believe the lies of the Australian government and the West Australian government. Well, there's no more hiding from the lies, Western Australian government. You need to come out today, Western Australian government, and stop the shots. You need to stop the shots today, Western Australian government, now that you know that it's killed Australian children in the trials and it's been covered up. And we've all been lied to. You need to stop the shots today. And all points bulletin out to all the physicians, all the nurses, all the hospitals, all the GPs, all the specialists, and say the shots must stop today. Why? Because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. We now know it's killing children because it's been admitted to that we've all been lied to. We've been lied that it's been killing children. Now, me and my cohorts have been looking through data and real-world testimonies for years now. We know it's been killing many, many children and injuring many, and adults and teens and sports people and police and nurses and everyone. But you've been able to just look back and say, well, those people are crazy. It's safe and effective. And by the way, here's the new Swift booster by variant. Get your half and gear around this. No! The shots have to stop. The shots have been killing children. You cannot get away from the truth anymore. The shots must stop today. One of your inept ministers must front the media today and say that the shots are stopping because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. The risk-benefit analysis has been changed for quite some time. If you've looked at the adverse excess deaths worldwide, adverse excess deaths up 20% worldwide and climbing. In Germany, it's 50% adverse excess deaths. 50%. Unexplained excess deaths are up 50% in Germany. Here in Western Australia, births have fallen to dramatic lows. The birth rate has dropped dramatically. Why? Because you made pregnant mothers get injected so they could go into hospitals and get treatment while they're pregnant. Had to be injected. All the while hiding, all the while lying about the deaths of children in the trials. A whole lot of people died in the trials. A whole lot of people died in the trials. And if you extrapolate that out to the rest of the community, a whole lot of people have died in the community. And you're still pushing the injections. You need to stop the shots today. And if you think, oh, I'm just one person that works for the government, what can I do? Do anything. Do anything you can. Disobey your superiors. Walk out here and call and press yourself and tell people. Do something. Or are you just going to let more children die, are you? Now that we know they are dying? Are you going to allow the deaths of more children with the poisonous vaccine? By your inaction. You need to have a press conference today and say we are stopping the shots today because the risk-benefit analysis has changed. The risk-benefit analysis has changed because now we have information that children did die in the trials and it's all been covered up. And now it's been uncovered, so we must stop the shots today. There is no question about it. The West Australian government must stop the shots today. Not next week. Not after you all had cups of tea. You need to get out now. Write a memo now to the health department. Today, this morning. And tell them that the shots must stop. The shots must stop today because we know today that children did die in the trials in Australia. That it was all covered up with lies. We know that children have been killed in Australia by the vaccine. And they've lied about it. You have no choice but to stop the shots today. An emergency bulletin to all doctors, to all hospitals and GPs. The shots must stop today. We know now that children were killed in the Australian trials and they covered it up because they didn't want vaccine hesitancy. You have no option but to stop the shots today. Not next week. Not after you've woken Mark up in the middle of the night in the UK in his little marauding tour of fit and healthy people to replace the ones he's poisoned here. Your Führer's overseas replacing you now that he's poisoned you. I wonder why he's overseas looking for more people. Because he's poisoned a whole lot of the workforce with his mandates. But he thought he could run from it. He thought he could pretend he didn't know people were dying as his government continues to push the jabs. He thought he could look people in the eye and say it's safe and effective. Well, I suppose he could. For most of you, because you're so in love with your state daddy, he could say anything. Not for all of us, of course. We've seen through the lies, but now it's unequivocal. The Australian TGA has lied about how many children. They've lied about children dying at all in the trials. Lies, lies, lies. And the shots must stop today. The shots must stop today. You need to call all your doctor mates with all their extra yachts and four-wheel drives and tell them to stop the shots. And hide the Lamborghini. It's not a good look. Stop the shots. Stop injecting people with poison. It was never safe and it's certainly not effective. Not effective. And now we know it was never safe for children. Ever. Australian children died in the trial and it's been covered up. You have no choice. None. You must stop the shots today. You don't have a choice. You must front the media today and say we are not giving out any more poisonous injections. Never. We're not giving out any of this diabolical mRNA poison, causing all sorts of autoimmune problems, blood clots, strokes, pericarditis, heart attacks, myocarditis, Bell's palsy, strep infections now up in children. Strep. But you've gone ahead, based on lies, and mandated everyone inject themselves. They want to keep a roof over their head. You've killed many parents, many children. Now you're out overseas replacing the workforce for the people that you've murdered, the people that you've poisoned. You're now overseas replacing us. The people that won't work anymore because they wouldn't get injected. You're now replacing us. You've poisoned the workforce, and now you're overseas replacing the workforce, trying to find new nurses and new police to replace the ones you've poisoned. So you can't run away from it anymore, West Australian government. You bunch of morons, you murderers, you're all complicit in the murder. You're all complicit in the murder. Well, you can't ignore it anymore because last week the TGA came out and said we lied. We lied and Australian children did die in the trial. And we've covered it all up. We've covered it up because we didn't want vaccine hesitancy. We didn't want vaccine hesitancy. So we've ended up with a whole lot of dead children. So you must now stop the injections today. You must now front the media today and say the risk-benefit analysis has changed. We know we've been lied to. We know that the TGA did have dead children from the trials and they lied to us to cover it up. So today we are stopping the shots in Western Australia because the risk-benefit analysis is such that it's too dangerous to give it to anyone else. The risk-benefit profile has changed. You've even gotten out. Oh, I didn't know the TGA were lying. There you go, there's your out. Do whatever you need to do. But today the shots must stop in Western Australia of this mRNA poison that's injuring and killing people. mRNA poison injuring and killing thousands of West Australians must stop today. Forget whatever else you were planning this week up there in your little workspace. Stopping the shot today is all you need to do for today. That's at the top of the list of priorities so that not one more West Australian child is injured or murdered by this poison. You need to stop the shots today, not next week, not after a committee meeting. Today, you need to front the media. Today, you need to tell the GPs and physicians and hospitals that mRNA is not going to be injected in anyone from today onward. It's far too much of a risk for death and injury compared to the risk of COVID-19. The risk-benefit analysis has changed. And you need to stop the shots today. Stop the shots today, Western Australian government. Now that you have the information you have no choice. No choice. You must stop the shots today. Or you're just going to let more Western Australian children be injured and killed. More Western Australian mothers and fathers and teenagers and sports people and First Nations. Taking a terrible toll on the First Nations, these injections.
terrible cold.
And now everyone in this building knows exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain it to you. You know what has been going on with your fascist Western Australian government and these injections. Everybody knows somebody who has been injured or dead from these injections. Well, now the government, the Australian TGA, has come out and admitted they lied to everyone about children dying in the vaccine trials. They lied and said no children died. Lies. So now you know, officially, you've always known there's been something wrong with these injections. You know people injured and dead. You know. Well, now it's official. So you can mark it in your little diary and make an official news conference this morning. We now know the TGA lied to us. We know that children did die in the Australian trials and they lied about it. They've covered it all up for vaccine hesitancy reasons. Children did die and we've lied about it. We've covered it up. And that is why we're stopping the injections today. Stopping the injections today, Western Australian government. You have no choice. You must stop the injections today. You people better call somebody. You better call somebody and work out who it is that we can get the injections to stop, because we know now that the TGA was lying. So the risk-benefit analysis has now changed again. It changed when Pfizer admitted that it didn't stop transmission. That's when the risk-benefit analysis changed, was when Pfizer admitted it didn't stop transmission because everyone was getting vaccinated so that you didn't spread it through the community. Turns out they didn't even test for transmission in the trials. Didn't even test for it. So that was all lies. And now we know that Australian children were killed in the injection trials in Australia, and they've lied about it and covered it up. And if you extrapolate that number of killed children from the trial to the civilian population, that is a lot of children. And I know a lot of injured children and dead children. I know about them, and you know about them too. But you've been able to hide behind your furious coattails as we get the well, no more. No more can you hide behind your idiot, fascist leader, Mark McGowan. And he said it's safe and effective. You can't hide behind him anymore because you know from the TGA it's killing children. You know from the TGA that it's killing Australian children, these injections, and you must stop the shots today. You must stop the shots today. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can call it a pause if you want. If that makes you feel any better, you can call it a pause. And then you don't even need to ask permission then. You're just pausing it. Do whatever you need to do, because if you do nothing, you are complicit because you know that it kills children now. The TGA have admitted it kills children now, and you now know that. You now have the information that COVID-19 injections kill children. You have these facts in front of you. So you have no other way of dealing with this than stopping the shots today. The shots must stop today. Not next week. Not after lunch. Not when you check with somebody. People walking ignoring me. Well, you won't be able to ignore me for much longer, people. And you don't want to end up in jail now that you know the shots kill children. If you want to stay out of charge yourself, you better make some moves, people. You better call somebody and log the call. Log the call. So that everyone knows, once you found out that we were being lied to about children's deaths, everybody knows once you found out you were being lied to, that you did something about it. Doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what you do, you better do something, or you're going to be complicit, and you're all going to go to jail, along with your senior leadership group. I love how some people still smirk at me as they walk past. Some people still smirk. Oh, thank you. Well, I've been to jail. I've been to jail for not wearing a mask. Okay? Been there, done that. So, if you are complicit, if you don't do something today, if you don't pull your hand out of you know what, and start facing reality, and do something to save Western Australians, you morons, stop the shots today. Because no matter how much of a dumbass you are here in Dumbass House, doesn't matter how much of a dumbass you are, you can start the ball rolling with stopping the shots today. Because you all now know that the vaccines are killing Australian children. You now know this because the TGA have admitted they lied. You can now not prance around with a smirk on your face in your very tight cowboy pants and your RA Williams, right? You can't do that anymore. You need to make sure that no more Australian children, Western Australian children, are being murdered by your fascist government. That's what you need to be doing. You need to get up to your workspace and start making the necessary plans to stopping the shots today. Nobody should be being injected now that we know that it's killing children. You must take action today to stop the shots so no more children are killed. I don't know how much simpler I need to make it for you. A lot of your so-called authority figures, they're all going to jail for murdering people because they've known for quite some time what the Pfizer trial data said. So you don't need to worry about what's going to come down the pipeline. They're not going to be there. They're going to jail. And if you want to stay out of jail, you need to stop the shots today. And do something for your fellow West Australians. And stop the shots. So it's quite warm here in the sun. There you go, guys.
What are you protesting about today?
You don't know?
No.
I can't hear me in there.
Was that you?
Can't hear me.
Was that you, like, at about 9 o'clock?
Oh yeah, I've been here for what?
I thought it was someone commenting on it as a jockey.
I can hear some
We probably can't hear a thing I'm saying.
Oh, no.
But you guys need to stop the shots. You need to tell everyone.
See you, right.
Yeah, see you, brother. So if you don't stop the shots today, Western Australian government, now that you know that the TGA lied about the deaths of the Australian children, now you know about that, you must stop the shots today and not kill any more West Australian children or teenagers or adults. The risk-benefit analysis has changed. Well, this phone's hot. So yeah, just here at Doma's house. Oh, there's a few comments, that's cool. Yep. So here at Doma's house, the people that could do anything about this diabolical situation are in here. I know, I flipped the screen. So, okay, so, oh yeah, so there's still 15 people on board, that's good. Anyway, this is the large building. This is where the politicians hang out when they're not at Parliament. In this building here, and you could see on the door it says Juma's house. So we call it Dumbass house. This is the building up here, and it goes down to a park and etc. And so people come in and out of here day in day out, and pretend that nothing's wrong. They pretend that their government is, well, firstly they pretend it's legitimate, but then now they're pretending that the shots aren't doing any damage. Well, they know it's doing damage now. They can't hide from that anymore. Anyway, I suppose I probably can't keep this up much longer, so I might head off. And I'm sure they'll be very happy. Oh, good, that problem's solved, they'll be thinking. So there it is. There's Dumbass house. And, you know, it takes a special type of moron to poison your own workforce and then have to head overseas to replenish your own workforce that you've poisoned. Well, that was only half the issue. Now we know it was all lies and you've poisoned them for no reason. It doesn't even stop you getting COVID. And of course, all the lies that they've been telling that it hasn't, you know, we've been saying it's killing children, it's injuring children. They've been saying it's safe and effective. Well, as it turns out, there are a whole bunch of liars. A whole bunch of liars. And now that they know that the TJ was lying to everyone and that it has killed children, they must stop the shots. They simply must. They must come out today and stop the shots. And delaying another day will just mean more people dead. You can't run from this, West Australian government. Anyway, you know, they've incarcerated me, fined me, they keep getting me for disorderly. So I've lost my licence now, of course. So I'm going to jump back on a bus. But there they are. These are the despicable people. They work in this place and they now know that Australian children are dead from the vaccine. They know this because the TJ have come out and admitted it at the end of last week. They know this now and they must now stop the shots. They must stop the shots today, or God help them. They must stop the shots today, or God help the West Australian government and all these busy idiots who work with it. Signing off. Should have done it from here in the shade.